I've been interested in health ever since I can remember.
She was always so intensely interested in health.
I started going to a lot of health seminars and reading more books.
It didn't take very long before I realized that although she was very into health and she did all the right things, that she still had a lot of health problems and she didn't feel good a lot of the time.
So I decided I'm gonna have to try to research and heal myself. I can eat the diet that I need to eat, I can do my cleansing, and I'll get well. But ironically, I just got sicker and sicker the harder I tried. Thinking that I had parasites, candida, SIBO, or leaky gut. Over the next 2 years, I did at least 5 liver flushes, then 2 week-long liver cleanses, thinking that if I could just get my liver to work right, I would start digesting food again. At least 5 parasite cleanses, a bunch of colon cleanses, coffee enemas. When I saw that photo of me at 79 pounds, I thought, wow, I look like somebody who's been through the Holocaust. And I knew I was starving. But I couldn't eat. Eating was like poison to me, and I felt better when I didn't eat.
I never thought in a million years that this is what could lead to her being so sick.
Even as a child, I remember finding out that sugar was bad for my body, and though it wasn't enough for me to want to give it up at that point, every time I ate it, I always felt really guilty and I felt sorry for my body, like I was really hurting my body. And I was actually somewhat chunky as a child and youth. But when I was like early teen, I started going to a lot of health seminars and reading more books and just learning more about health. So the more I learned about health, the more I realized I felt like there was a standard I needed to reach. I was such an overachiever, even through high school, college, that I just expected way too much of myself. I had to be the top of my class and I had to be perfect in everything. When I would see videos and read books about people eating raw and doing cleanses and juice fasts and green smoothies, I would feel a twinge of guilt, like that's what I should be doing to be completely healthy. When I was in high school, I decided to be vegan. And unfortunately, that wasn't a popular thing, and I remember being made fun of for it. And this caused me to want to hide and be ashamed of my diet. And so after that, I developed a severe anxiety about eating with others, and I was very self-conscious if I had to eat with other people because I always thought they were judging my food. And I just wanted to eat by myself. When I was 18, I decided to try an elimination diet. I wanted to make sure that these foods were not hurting me. And I thought if I take them out, then reintroduce them, then I'll know for sure that they're okay for me. Because I'd heard stories of people that had eliminated these foods and their health problems all went away. So when I was 18, I eliminated corn, wheat, soy, peanuts, and all dairy. Even though over the years I've added those foods back in over the next 15 years, I never could get rid of the thought in my mind that these foods might not be the best foods for me. So when I was in college, I signed up for a mission trip. And while I was at that mission trip, there was not enough food that I considered pure and healthy. So a lot of times I didn't eat or I ate very little, and it was a very stressful trip. I didn't have a lot of time to even think about food. So I lost 10 pounds in 3 weeks. When I got back from that trip, everything I ate hurt my stomach. I was having all these digestive symptoms, fatigue, a whole new set of health problems I never had before. So I assumed that I'd picked up candida, parasites, something horrible. And at that point, I went to doctor after doctor, and they did test after test, and they couldn't find nothing wrong with me. Years ago, when I was visiting a doctor for one of my digestion issues, he did actually, after not being able to figure out what was wrong with me, he asked if I wanted to see a psychologist. And I just got angry at that point. Thought, what are you talking about? What I'm experiencing is very real. And it was. I was so discouraged and alone at that point. So I decided I'm gonna have to try to research and heal myself. This began many years of trying all sorts of diets, cleanses. First I tried the alkaline diet, then I transitioned to the raw diet. Then I met a doctor who was a friend, and she recommended I try fasting because she told me that she had had a wonderful experience where on the third day of her fast, she suddenly felt amazing because her body was cleansed of all its toxins, and then she could eat and she was fine. So I tried this. Well, day 3 came and went, and I felt terrible. So we assumed I must have more toxins than she did, so I kept going. By day 6 of laying in bed, feeling horrible, I was not getting better. So I started eating again, and that was that. I just basically lost some weight, but none of my symptoms improved from doing that fast. Then I met my husband.
One of the things that I really liked about Lori was that she was always so intensely interested in health.
But there was 2 main reasons I didn't think he was for me. First of all, he was too tall. I didn't think I would ever marry somebody so tall. But second of all, he was not as into health as I was.
And I knew I needed someone like her in my life to help me, to motivate me to live more of a healthy lifestyle.
I was very critical on anybody that didn't eat as strict as I did.
And I know it was kind of a big issue for her because I wasn't quite up to her standard. In my lifestyle and in my diet, I just wasn't quite as healthy or into health as she was. And so I know there was a little bit of a concern for her. You know, I grew up eating a lot of junk food, and for me, health was an iceberg salad with a ton of dressing on it, and to me that was idea of something that was healthy. I remember juicing some grapefruits for the first time because I didn't like grapefruits, and that was quite an experience because I learned, wow, if I just eat these enough, I could actually like them. I could change what I like, and that was a big deal. I was just on another level than she was at the time that we met.
He managed to win my heart over despite all of that.
When we were dating, we would hike up this mountain in Arizona, and we would sit down and read. And it seems like as we did that, the more often we did that, the better in shape that I got. And I felt great climbing up really fast, but it seemed like it was harder and harder for her. It didn't take very long before I realized that although she was very into health and she did all the right things, that she still had a lot of health problems and she didn't feel good a lot of the time. After we got married, I really had a desire to get healthier and to kind of come up to her standard and come up higher in the way that I lived my life and the way that I ate.
He lovingly decided that he would go on a raw diet with me, so we did that for a couple months.
You know, I wanted to see her get well, and I wanted to see her feel good. And so I tried these different diets with her. I tried the raw diet with her after we got married for 2 months, and it was hard.
So then after we gave up the raw diet, we basically ate out a lot, honestly, and I still had a lot of those feelings of guilt when I would eat things like that.
And throughout the years we tried many different things. So we tried the Candida diet, she tried the elimination diet. We did the low carb. We tried just regular vegetarian, tried regular vegan. Pretty much everything that you can think of, we tried. But even in trying all these diets and thinking that, okay, well, this is what's gonna help, this is what's gonna make her feel better, and me too, that none of those really seemed to work. I saw her that she did everything right. She followed health to a T, and she did everything, and she was so strict, and she was always doing the right thing. She would never slip up. She would never, eat anything quote unquote bad. She would never eat anything that was fried or anything with sugar. I don't think I've ever seen her eat a candy bar. She's never drinking a soda.
I had sort of all or none thinking, and I knew that food wasn't the best food for me. And so I just, I'd eat too much, and I just felt so guilty, so terrible. And I knew in the back of my mind, someday I'm gonna have to cleanse or change or get better, because this is not, ideal food for my body.
She did everything right, and yet she never really felt good.
In 2016, I finally got to the point where I felt like it was time for me to get stricter in my diet. And by this point, Matt had gained some weight, and he was ready for a change too.
We started watching some videos from a YouTube health personality, and she was advocating a low-carb, vegetarian, vegan, low-carb diet. And so we decided, well, let's do that.
Some of our family members were also into her, and she promoted more of a paleo vegan diet, higher fat and cutting carbs. And so based on the stories and testimonies that we heard, we decided, you know what, let's try it. So we cut out grains and most fruits, and we based our diet largely on salads and beans and healthy fats like coconut oil and nuts and seeds.
And I felt great. I felt really good. I felt like I did really well on that.
Both of us felt like we were experiencing very positive results from this diet. Matt lost a lot of weight, and he looked amazing.
And I lost weight, lost a lot of weight very quickly. I measured all of my blood profiles, and it was looking good. My HDL went up, my LDL was going down, my triglycerides went down, and even after 6 months of that diet, it seemed like, yeah, this is the best way to eat and to live.
So I was really enjoying that diet, and I probably had enough self-control to stay on it for years. But Matt caved after about 6 months.
Long term, I found that it just wasn't sustainable. It wasn't something that I could do. I just craved carbs.
And started adding in some carbs to his diet, and I felt like he was cheating on me.
I wanted carbs, and I wanted them now. I wanted chips. I just wanted to eat all the chips. I felt a little guilty, and so I had to hide it. And, she feels like, I'm cheating on her because of, I'm cheating on the diet, so I'm cheating on her.
So while I was still convinced that this low carb, avoiding fruits for my candida issues was the ideal diet, we did some traveling and went to other countries. And in one of them, they put us in a house, and I had 18 fruit trees in the backyard. And I said to God, either you're really cruel or you're trying to tell me something. I just had the thought, why would God provide such fruit in abundance if I wasn't supposed to eat it? And I got on my knees. I said, God, I'm willing to unlearn everything. Please show me. When I first began the low-carb diet, I feel like it improved my digestion because I was eating simpler foods. I wasn't eating, it very much limited what I was eating, so my body didn't have a bunch of complex foods to digest. But very quickly, all that fat felt like it slowed down my digestion, and pretty soon I didn't have an appetite, and I found myself not being able to eat as much, just getting full on less and less. And at that point, I added back in grains, fruits, nuts, seeds. I started eating more of a balanced diet. I swung over to the whole food side, and I cut out the fat and oil, which I had been eating excessively before. So after I switched to the whole food plant-based diet and I'm eating a wide variety of foods, there's a huge problem. I'm finding I can't digest anything. I'm still having bloating, indigestion, all these symptoms after I'm doing everything right and trying to eat the foods that God has given me. So this causes me to think, once again, I'm dealing with candida, parasites, something. I've got to fix my digestion. So after several years of traveling, we finally settled down into a house, and I'm thinking to myself, finally, I can eat the diet that I need to eat, I can do my cleansing, and I'll get well. But ironically, I just got sicker and sicker the harder I tried. Over the next 2 years, I did at least 5 liver flushes, then 2 week-long liver cleanses, thinking that if I could just get my liver to work right, I would start digesting food again. I did at least 5 parasite cleanses, a bunch of colon cleanses, coffee enemas, saunas, clay baths. But despite all these cleanses and everything I was trying, nothing was working. And every time I ate, it felt like the food would just sit there and it was rotting and poisoning me. And nothing was digesting like it should. Finally, in total desperation, I called a wellness center and told them my symptoms. They concluded that I must have a parasite or some sort of overgrowth. And they suggested I go on a complete fruit cleanse, like just eat fruit. And I asked them, how long should I do this? And they said indefinitely. So then I began eating just raw fruit. And even that wouldn't digest. It would sit there and rot, and I would feel poisoned.
I had gone with her through these ups and downs and through all these changes where I just got to the point where I was just sick of changes. I was just sick of changing the diet. I was sick of trying new things. And I really came to the point where I just was maybe kind of depressed, and I doubted that she would ever get better. She would come to me and share like, oh, I think this is wrong. I think I need to be doing this, or I need to do this cleanse or that cleanse. And I just was really apathetic, and I feel bad because I love my wife. I mean, I wanted to be excited about and have hope for her, but I felt like I came to the point where I just didn't have any hope for her ever getting better. I guess it got to the worst point when she got down to about 79 pounds, and she just couldn't eat anything. She couldn't digest anything. I wanted to help, but I just didn't know what to do.
Finally, I became so weak, emaciated, unable to function. One day, I had my daughter take a picture of me. And when I saw that photo, I couldn't believe it. How could someone who tries so hard to eat everything just right, to exercise, to do everything just right, be so sick?
She's always been pretty thin, but this was like extremely, extremely thin.
I thought, wow, I look like somebody who's been through the Holocaust. And I knew I was starving. But I couldn't eat. Eating was like poison to me, and I felt better when I didn't eat.
And so for me, it was really a difficult thing because, you know, I'm trying to do full-time ministry and trying to travel and put out videos and produce content. And we moved to Arkansas and trying to work with the local church and got all these things going on. And yet it was just very difficult for me to balance family life. And I want to say that I was a good husband, and I helped out and took care of the kids more often and was there for her, but I don't feel like I really was, because felt like I was being torn in so many different directions.
We made a family decision that I should go to my mother's house with my children.
You know, maybe the best thing is that you should go to your mother's and she can help out with the kids, and she could just take care and prepare the meals, and you won't have to stress out. You won't have to worry about cleaning the house and taking care of the kids and all these things. And so she went.
When I was at my mom's, I was in tears one day because I couldn't figure out what to eat anymore. I was tired. I wanted to give up on life. It was too hard to figure out how to survive. I was tired of thinking about food and worrying about what to do to live. My mom came in and she prayed with me, and then she left the room. 15 minutes after that, I went out to her and I said, "Mom, I know exactly what's wrong with me, and I'm gonna get well." I had come across the term orthorexia one time in the past, but I just moved on because I don't have an eating disorder and it didn't even interest me. But this day, the word orthorexia came directly into my mind as I was sitting there, and I thought, I wonder what it means. So I Googled it, and when I saw what it means, I knew right away that that was me.
When she told me that, oh, I finally found what my problem was. It's orthorexia. I'm like, orthorexia? What in the world is that?
Orthorexia is an obsession with clean eating or righteous eating to the point where it affects your health.
And when she described it, that it's an obsession with clean or righteous eating, I thought, yeah, that pretty much well describes my wife. She's pretty much thinking about health and food like constantly ever since I've known her, really.
I never considered that I had an eating disorder because I had no desire to be thin. I didn't throw up. I just wanted to be healthy.
I never thought in a million years that this is what could lead to her being so sick. It started to make sense that she had restricted herself and cut so many things out, and she went on all these cleanses and elimination diets to where she couldn't hardly eat anything, and then she was malnourished and so restricted that her body started to shut down and her digestion shut down to where she couldn't even digest regular food like fruit. She couldn't digest fruit.
I'd gotten to the point where I would become so anxious if I didn't know what was in a food. I would imagine that, like, if that food had something in it that would hurt me, I would actually imagine it hurting my body as I consumed it. I would feel guilty and excess impulsive need to cleanse if I ate something that wasn't healthy. I got to the point where I was thinking about food all the time. So I had to have complete control over my food. I wanted to know exactly what I was going to eat. So I had to take my food everywhere. And then I didn't want other people to scrutinize it. So I liked to eat by myself. I had to make sure that I ate the perfect food combinations, eat at the exact right time. I couldn't eat things that had ingredients that I felt were impure.
Once Lori realized that her problem is not necessarily what she is doing or not doing, but more of her mental state, her fear and anxiety and stress over food. I think once she realized that really helped.
I became so confused about what even is good for my body because, you know, people say fruit has too much sugar, vegetables are hard to digest, grains are bad. So I got to the point where I was pretty much had fear of all food because I didn't know what was true anymore.
There was a day where the stress of being back home and all of the duties of life, of being a mother, taking care of the house, being a wife, and taking care of the kids, and it started to stress her out, and that stress started to affect her digestion. And we sat down and we had a pretty serious conversation where I had to unload on her a lot of the baggage that I was holding inside because of her health issues. I never really shared that because I didn't want to stress her out and worry about what she's doing to me, because I know that would make it worse. And that was, I think that was somewhat freeing for the both of us. And I was really worried that she was going to go right back to where she was, that she was doing good, but then she was going to decline. And I felt like a terrible, terrible depression and a terrible weight of not being able to go through it anymore. I just wanted it to be done. I wanted it to be over. I wanted her to be healthy. I wanted her to feel good.
Since I discovered my real problem was orthorexia and obsessing about food, it's been 8 weeks and I've gained 25 pounds. I don't have the fear, stress, anxiety. I'm able to eat most everything I want to eat, and I can eat with my family. I don't have to scrutinize food labels. I don't have to question what's in this food or even stress about it. Yes, I still want to eat healthy, and I want to do the best I can and bring glory and honor to God through my body. But I don't want to make it an idol anymore. I realize that I want to have faith that God is going to provide the best food for me, and that food is going to help my body, even if it's not ideal.
I just know that the Lord resurrected her from the dead. Like, He's given her a new life. And I've seen an incredible change, not just mentally, but physically. This wasn't something that was just a coincidence. This is something that the Lord did, and the Lord gave her the answer.
When I found out that I was dealing with orthorexia and this problem was in my mind, began in my mind, I have to say what I was experiencing, all the symptoms were very real. But learning about orthorexia helped me to put all the pieces of my health puzzle together and understand that what originally caused my health issues was this fear and anxiety, stress about food. Then cutting things out of my diet, going places where I didn't have enough to eat, my body had become malnourished. And what I thought were symptoms of candida, SIBO, all these other bacterial overgrowths was actually my body starving. And I didn't know that my stomach, my digestive system had actually shut down because I was not giving it enough nourishment. And so here, me getting stricter and stricter, I would just get worse and worse.
And I know there's a lot of people out there that are going through the same thing as she has gone through.
I misinterpreted the symptoms of my body. I thought that I had serious health issues that needed fixing by cleansing and being more extreme in my diet, when really my body was trying to tell me that it's malnourished and I'm not giving it either the nutrients or the amount of food that it needed. After I learned about orthorexia, I knew my focus had to change from fighting and killing off whatever bug I had, and it had to change to feeding and nourishing my body. And I realized at that point, the most important thing is for my body to get calories. So I went and I got whatever I thought could digest, the easiest things, vegan yogurt, liquid protein shakes, and I just started pumping in calories. I also went to the Lord and I said, please deliver me from the bondage I've been in with these thought patterns. So some of the symptoms that I had over the years, as a child, as a young person, I always felt tired, fatigued. I was overweight, but then I had things like frequent yawning and symptoms of candida like coated tongue, foggy mind, indigestion, bloating, cold intolerance, severe hair loss. I had really bad circulation, Raynaud's disease, dry skin, dandruff, low blood pressure, irregular, painful periods, and eventually loss of period. I might have had parasites. I'm sure I had candida. I had somebody look at my blood. They said I had fungus in my blood. I've been told by a doctor I had leaky gut. I know I had all these things, but I believe that they were there as a result of my body dying and starving, and they were feeding off of the dead flesh of my body. And by feeding my body what it needed, most of these symptoms of parasites, candida, they've all gone away. So now I love eating again. I don't have those feelings of guilt when I eat, and I just really can enjoy eating. I can eat wheat and corn and soy, and I can eat fruit without having any guilt. I can eat vegetables. I can eat a cooked food, cooked sweet potatoes, realizing that God gave this to me to enjoy. I don't have to have any negative feelings whatsoever about these foods that God gave me to enjoy.
She doesn't have to be so afraid of not going to a potluck or going to somebody else's house to eat and having to worry about if there's going to be something there that she can eat.
I have just a whole new sense of enjoyment for food, and food is so good, and I'm allowed to enjoy it.
I've seen a difference in her relationships, and as we travel and go places where she's more outgoing, she's more friendly because she has more energy and she feels good.
This eating disorder has taken over most of my life, and I feel like I have my life back. And life is so much better than I ever imagined that it even could be. I feel such a freedom and a deliverance. I feel like I've been raised from the dead.
I know that because she has gone through this experience, the Lord is going to use her to help others.
I soon realized that I wasn't the only one going through this. Several of my close friends who I talked to and shared this with them were going through the same thing, had similar issues, health issues, even though they were doing things right. So if you recognize that you might have some of these tendencies to obsess over righteous eating or clean eating, the first thing to do is to examine your thought processes. Do you have guilt, worry, anxiety, or fear about food, about what you're eating? Because that in itself is enough to make you sick. Even if on the outside you are doing absolutely everything right, like I was. When the body has been deprived of nutrients or calories, the metabolism gets very slow. Once you start refeeding, the thing is you cannot go back to eating a normal amount of calories. I'm a small woman, but if I went back to eating just the minimum to maintain my weight, I would not recover. And this is one thing I didn't understand in the past. Based on the Minnesota starvation experience, men who had been starved purposely for months, they had to get up to 4,000 calories a day for their bodies to even start recovering. So once I learned this, I knew that what I needed was to eat a lot of calories. And this was really hard for me because I was not hungry, had no appetite. Every time I ate, it felt full and yucky and horrible, and like I was sinning horribly. Now, what some people will tell you to do is throw out all the food rules, all the rules, and have no rules. But I don't think that's the answer either. I think the answer is balance. The things that helped me the most was understanding that if I have any fear that a food will hurt me, it will. The mind is powerful. So if I think that there's something inferior about a cooked sweet potato versus something raw, then yeah, I'm probably not going to get the benefits that God intended for me in that sweet potato. If I think that wheat is going to hurt me, it probably will. I just want to encourage you that if you recognize any similarities or tendencies to these obsession with healthy eating and you're having health issues, but you've tried everything, there is freedom. There is hope for you, and God will help you recover.
You may not be going through it, but you may have a spouse or a loved one, a family member that is going through something similar. Just be supportive and be careful about some of the things you say, because this is an issue of the mind. And it is an issue of mentality, and people like me that don't have that mindset, it's easy to say things and just kind of brush it off. But for somebody along that mindset. A thought gets planted in their mind and they run with it, whether it's true or not. They'll run with it, and it really, really affects their outcome and their mentality and their mindset. So we just want to encourage you to be very, very mindful of being supportive to your loved one that is going through the same thing.
So I started going to a lot of health seminars. I started reading everything I could on health. It was just such a passion. And I wanted to become vegan. So I started cutting out meat.
Never ate meat. You never had meat in your life.
That can go in the bloopers.
What do you mean you never ate meat?
I know. Okay, thank
Except for
you,
that
Laura.
one time on accident.